Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here today. And today I have something special for you all. As you know, I am a widow and I have been going through my grieving process now for a little over a year and a half. And I came across a widow coach on Instagram one day, and she popped me a message based on one of my videos, and it was really, really sweet. Because my grieving videos have had such great success, of meaning that a lot of people have clicked on them and a lot of people have commented on them, I have decided to have her here today because I myself am not a widow coach. And I really feel like there's a great need because so many of us just are not opening the conversation and how we're feeling grieving. And so I like to welcome my very new friend and great friend, Karen Sutton. Thank you, Karen, for being here with us today.
Oh, bless you, Jodie. Thank you so much for having me. It's really lovely to be here.
So, as a grieving coach, or well, you call yourself the widow coach, right? What is it about your practice that made you decide that you wanted to help other people through their grieving process?
So for me, my husband died in 2016 and I was thrown into the world of widowhood. And I kind of stumbled my way through the first 2.5 years. I had a bit of therapy, counseling, and I was doing all right. I had two young girls to look after. And I got to a point where I just didn't know who I was, where I fit in, what I wanted, where life was heading. I didn't understand anything anymore. And I didn't know how to find the answers either. And I'd obviously met some widow friends at this point through groups and child support and what have you. And a lot of widows were feeling the same way. Anyway, I went off and I decided to get myself a life coach to help me with my health and fitness. My husband had died of a heart attack at 43. And I thought, do you know, I probably need to stop eating and drinking so much and look after myself a little bit better. So I found myself a coach that helped me with that. But because he was a life coach as well as helping me with my health and fitness, he just helped me with my mindset and my perspective and gave me the tips and the tools and the strategies to help me rebuild. Now, he wasn't a grief coach, he was a regular life coach. But what I learned in that process and how my life changed in those 6 months was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I just felt clearer. I felt more confident. I knew myself better. I knew what I wanted from life. Everything felt lighter. And I just thought, I can't go through this and know this and not help other people that I know are struggling in a similar situation. So I kind of went off and I did some coaching courses. I did a health coaching course. I did a separation course. I did a general life coaching course. And with that, with my own journey and my own life coaching experience, I've kind of put it all together to help other widows. And I didn't start off as a widow coach. I started off as a breakup and bereavement coach because I just wanted to help so many people. But actually, I noticed I was attracting widows because that's my story and that's what I do. And I think people resonate with that. And I think we get so much comfort, don't we, from talking to somebody that we know gets it, that has walked our path. And as much as every experience is different and everyone's situation is different, the feelings that we're left with are often quite similar. And I think just having that space that you can speak your truth in, that you're not being judged, somebody's not trying to kind of solve your problems or give you platitudes, I felt that was really needed. And it was something I certainly felt I needed. And I just wanted to do that and provide that and give people that safe space, but also help them create their new normal, to reimagine a life after loss, to take back their power, share the tips, the tools, the strategies that I'd learned in my journey and pass those on and help other people reframe a lot of their thoughts, shift their perspective, and really work on that internal dialogue that we all hugely struggle with. So that's how I've ended up here doing what I do, meeting absolutely amazing people day in, day out, just like yourself. And I love it. It has become my passion and my purpose. And I've just never loved anything so much. I was a midwife before my husband died, and I loved that. But
Mm.
now, doing this, I love this even more. So yeah, I just adore doing it.
Well, that's a really, really great story, for you and for all the people that you help. And to think that you went from being a midwife of helping people have their babies to having people kind of get through that next phase of life, which is kind of something
Yeah.
that we all are going through, right? Everyone has to go through death at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I did like what you said about helping people find their power again.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for just a second, because you're grieving, and in the beginning, and actually for phases all the way through, and again, I'm still pretty new, but you really just feel very, very powerless. And that never part of that never goes away, because of course now our lives have completely changed beyond what we thought we were going to be living. But there are moments where you can definitely get your power back.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say to the person who's striving to find some power again? What would be some advice that you'd want to give to them if they feel like, I feel completely powerless to this sorrow that I'm dealing with right now?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's a really hard place to be in, and we do feel very powerless. But I would say invest in you, discover yourself, spend some time. I mean, how many of us go out and spend hundreds of pounds on clothes, on makeup, on hairdos, on trips? And as lovely as they are, they're momentary, aren't they? They only make you feel good for at a certain amount of time, and then you have to go back to your reality. And I always say to people, work on you from the inside out, because when you feel better on the inside, everything on the outside feels better. And I never really understood that until I did it, but it's so true. Go back to basics. Eat well, stay hydrated, get outside, move your body, get some sleep, connect with people. They really are basic things. And discover who you are, discover what's important to you, and really create an awareness around what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing, because you will find that there will be a lot in those three areas that is going on that isn't serving you in any way whatsoever, and you're doing it out of habit, out of pressure, out of expectation. And you don't need to. We can change these things. We can change the dialogue. We can change the behaviors. And you can really, when you create that awareness, when you start to notice what works and what doesn't work for you, you're taking back your power, because you stop doing the things that aren't serving you, and you do more of the things that are serving you, and they make you feel better on the inside. Work on your internal dialogue. The words you use inside your head are so powerful, but they're often so destructive. So destructive. We cause ourselves so much harm, so much more harm than the situation itself, I believe. And they're just, I mean, there's so much you can do, but I mean, I would say that the main areas I think people can work on to help themselves feel more in control, more like they're taking their power back, because when you work on those things, it's a stepping stone, and then that gains momentum, and it just keeps going. And the more you start achieving, you increase your confidence, your self-esteem, and things really start to happen.
I want you to know how much I appreciate those words, because those are the basis of so much of my coaching for every single person out there. But really, for people that are widowed right now, or just lost a partner, because it's not always
Mm,
about being sad from losing a partner, but a lot of times it's sad because you lost a parent, or
mm,
a child, or any of that. But
mm,
taking care of yourself, and really putting the boundaries in place around what you need.
mm,
Because what I tell all of my clients is, if you put yourself first, your needs, and you're not being, it's not selfish to do that. I think when you're grieving, a lot of times you do feel selfish because people are
Mm,
helping you so much, and it's so hard to receive those gifts
mm,
that they're giving you. But and so
mm.
we feel selfish, but when you are filled up inside of you, then everyone else around you benefits.
100%. My coach said to me in the very early days, because I really struggled with this selfishness. I felt like it's alien to us, isn't it? Investing in ourselves, working on us, because you're a wife, you're a mum, you work, you're always giving, 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 and then somebody tells you to stop and to take and to do you, and it goes against the grain and everything you kind of believed up to that point. But it's so important, and I remember my coach saying to me, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. And I didn't really understand it at first. I kind of said, what? I don't understand. But you're right. And selfish, sometimes we can be selfish in a way that causes another person harm. And that's not good. But being selfish in a way to fill up our own cup, to make sure that we're nourished, nurtured, loved from the inside, makes us a better person. And then we can be a better parent, a better friend, a better sister, a better colleague. We just do everything better because we are looking after ourselves. And it just, once you get your head around it and you can see it, it makes so much sense. But initially, it goes against everything that we've been led to believe up to a certain point, doesn't it?
It really, really, really does, especially as a mother, where we're
Mm,
told, always put yourself second. Mothers always put themselves second, but we are the ones who really do everything for everyone. And we
yeah.
really do need to put our self-care
Mm,
first.
mm-hmm.
So that goes into kind of transitions into a question that I have for you about children and having the young ones in your life and younger than me. My kids really aren't that young, but um, when you're going through your own grieving process and you have children that are also going through their grieving process, what advice would you give on being a good example or being able to be there for them while you're also struggling?
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it, with children? My two were 9 and 5 when my husband died. And I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anything about grief. I didn't understand my own grief, let alone their grief. And in the early days, I was kind of like, are you okay? How are you feeling? Is there anything I can do? And I quickly realized they were ridiculous questions to ask because I couldn't answer them myself, let alone, expecting a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old to answer these questions. And I was really lucky. I had great support around me, and I had a charity over here called Winston's Wish, which is a child bereavement support charity. And I lent on them a lot. But I think it is being honest and open with your children is the best that you can do. It's telling them when you feel sad, it's telling them how you feel on the inside, the anxieties, the worries, at a level that's appropriate to their age. I don't mean burden them with everything, but you'll understand your children, as a parent, where they're at, the language you can use, it, what they're capable of taking on. And I think explain things to them, tell them when you're feeling sad, tell them when you're finding things tough, tell them that you need a little bit of help with something because you just are so tired and exhausted. Some of the thoughts maybe you're having that aren't necessarily great thoughts, that you sometimes feel are a bit unkind, because your children are going to be having the same feelings, the same thoughts, the same emotions, and they're not going to be able to articulate them. So by hearing you saying what you're feeling and what you're going through, it's going to normalize it for them. Grief is a lonely place, isn't it? We feel very isolated and very lonely in it because we don't feel like anyone understands. And then when we have all these emotions and we think we're the only one feeling them in the world, that makes it even worse. So I think keep that dialogue open with them, be honest. Also provide that safe space, and by talking about it, that's what you're doing, letting them know that they can come and talk to you at any time about anything that they want to talk about. You are there. Even if they don't want to talk, you will just sit with them. And the same as we feel as grievers, sometimes we don't want platitudes. We don't want people to keep telling us it's going to be okay, he's in a better place, you're going to be okay. And sometimes you just want to be heard and listened, and it's the same with your children. Just sit with them, hold their hand, listen to their fears, their anxieties. Don't try and box them away. Don't tell them they're being silly. The biggest, I remember my daughter, my youngest, saying to me, well, what happens if you die, mummy? And naturally you want to say, I'm not going to die, it's absolutely fine, I'm not going. But you can't promise these things, and you just have to say, it is my intention to stay here with you for as long as I can until watch you have children and grandchildren. And you're not promising anything in that, but you're hearing what they're saying, you're telling them the truth. And that's reassurance for them. And I think we have to hold that space for children as much as we need it to be held for ourselves. They know you're there, they know they can come to you, they know they can say anything you want, and you're not going to say, oh, don't be so silly, that's not going to happen. You don't need to worry about that, let me worry about that. Children need to be heard and listened to, and they need to feel that what they're thinking and feeling is valid. And I think that's one of the best things as a parent that we can do for them, and lead by example. I think we have to show them that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be happy.
Mhm.
It's okay to lean on people and take support. It's okay to talk about it, and do what you want them to do. Show them.
Good. That's really, really solid advice. And I hope that these viewers are really enjoying this excellent coaching, letting them know that they're not alone in their struggles, for sure. So that's great. So some of the other questions that I got, or I wouldn't say questions, I really didn't receive any questions. I just received comments based on my videos. But you kind of unanimous across the board, and I would say 90 to 95% of the comments I received were about how the partner's family was no longer supporting them, was no longer a part of their life, had disappeared, left them. And it's very, very difficult when you've just lost someone that you love. And like in my case, I was with my husband for 30 years, and his family was a part of my family. It called his mom and his dad, and all of that. We never had any kind of bad blood or anything. And now they just suddenly disappeared. It's like the second that my husband passed away, then they also kind of no longer wanted to be a part of our family. No Christmas cards, birthday cards for my kids. And I know that it's their grieving process, but now they have lost, and we've all lost so much more than just a father and a husband. We've lost more. And I've noticed so many comments about this, about how the families just disappear, and it makes them feel so much worse inside. So what advice could you give with people that are struggling with losing so much more than just their spouse, but also an entire element of their family?
It's so hard, isn't it? There's so many secondary losses to losing a life partner. And sadly, relationships, in-laws, friendships are part of that. A lot changes, and people will behave in a way that surprises you, that knocks you back. And then we take that personally, because of course we do. When somebody rejects you, that's horrible, that hurts. It's kind of, well, why are you doing this? Am I not good enough? Have I done something wrong? And we take it all on, don't we? I think it's really important to remember that how other people choose to behave says way more about them than it does about you. They are their choices, and we can't control how other people choose to respond in any given situation. And it's about focusing on the things that you can control and not the things that you can't control. And it's really hard. And give yourself the time and the space to grieve that loss as well, to be sad for it, because of course you're going to be. That's okay. That's how it is, isn't it? You're not a bad person, but don't take it personally. I think when something like this happens, we tend to think, well, what have I done? Am I not good enough? Have I done something to upset them? And we take it all on, and that's another heavy load to carry. And by trying to let it go and just say, that's up to them. That's their choice. I can't help that. I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on the people that have shown up, that are here for us. It just helps it feel a little bit lighter. It doesn't mean that you accept their behavior or that you condone it or understand it. It just means that you care enough for yourself to say, I'm not going to carry that weight with me because it's not mine to carry. They will have their reasons for what they've done, whether they're valid or not. I don't know. Maybe you'll never know. Also, I think people react very differently to grief. We all do it very, very differently. And there has to be an element of understanding in that. However, in the early days, when your grief is really raw, we haven't got anything to give to anyone else. It's as much as we can do to get out of bed in the day, isn't it? Let alone trying to consider somebody else's feelings. That's hard. And it's going to be different depending on where you are in your journey as to how you handle any given situation. But not everything is permanent. And with time and space, things can come back round. People can reflect and look back and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have behaved that way. Maybe that wasn't a great thing to do. And people can reconnect in time. But if you don't, sometimes you just have to love yourself enough to say, I'm going to focus on what's good for me, the people that are showing up, the people that are here for me and my children, and I'm going to let that go. It's really sad and it's a shame, and I'm sad for it, but I can't change it. You can't control it. But it's a process, and it's not something you can just suddenly decide to do, is it? You have to work through these things. But it is a huge problem for so many.
Right. So I think that is an incredibly healthy response to just say, let them have their grief. I'm not adding it to mine. I'm not going to include what I'm going through right now. And but again, you go through the whole anger, like, that makes me so angry, or what did I do? You're exactly right. Like, what is it that I did wrong that makes them not, or what did my kids do, or did we not do enough? All those questions definitely come up in your head, but the truth of the matter is that they're dealing with what they're dealing with, and it's all theirs to deal with. Need to be part of our story anymore. So much for that. So what else are the things that came up? Well, one thing is, right now, with the way the world has been over the last over a year now, so many people are losing spouses and loved ones in the time of COVID, which is leaving them completely alone because they've been quarantined and unable to be with friends and family. I'm sure that you've had some clients, hopefully, I hope that you have, because I know the amount of support that they definitely need. But what would you suggest to the people who are having to be isolated during this time, and just so much loss, and then also having to not be able to get the physical hugs or emotional support or anything from people, and not being able to have funeral services or any of that? What kind of advice give to those people?
Again, it's horrendous, isn't it, what people have been through? And when my husband died, the world was open. I was able to lean on people. I had family and friends around me, and I can't begin to imagine how awful it is to be locked away from everyone at a time when you need everyone the most. Allow that time to let you reflect on what you've been through, on letting the grief come in. I think a lot of us finds very unhealthy coping mechanisms after we lose a loved one. Understandably, I did it, and I know many others that have done it too. And they take, lockdown takes that away from you, doesn't it? And you're left to face every single fear and every single emotion on your own. And it is horrendous because there's no escape from it. There's absolutely no escape from it. But look at what you can do at home. Are there little projects you can set yourself, things that you can do around the house? Could you learn something new? We have the internet at our hands, depending on where you are in your grief and how you're feeling. There's different things that we can do. We can learn. Can you get creative? Can you learn something just to give you a little bit of respite something you can focus on that doesn't take too much of your attention and energy, but something, yoga, breath work, drawing, arts and crafts. There's online groups you can join and meet new people as well if you wanted to. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, and it's doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. But by keeping an open heart and an open mind, you will do so much better through your grief than if you're closed off to everything. And when you lose someone you love, everything changes. Absolutely everything. That the life that you had is gone, and we don't want it to be gone. We want to cling on to it. We want it to be the same. Throw a global pandemic on top of that, everything is just heightened, and it's so much worse. But if you can be open to new ideas, to new experiences, to doing things in a different way, you will be helping yourself tremendously. And I'm not saying that it's easy to do. I'm not saying that it's a magic answer. It really isn't. But it's where can you focus your attention? You know, what is this an opportunity for you to do? Because there is opportunity in everything. We just have to sometimes look a lot harder to find it. And we have to push ourselves a little bit harder as well sometimes. So, you know, find new ways of connecting with people. Try and keep those lines of communication open, because it's very easy. And I've spoken to a lot of people that in the lockdown, they have withdrawn, they've shut themselves off, because it's easy to do, right? You know, we're tired, we're exhausted, we've got nothing to give. You don't want to speak to people over the internet. That's not how it works for you. So you just go, do you know what? I'm just going to stay at home. I'm going to just watch the TV and walk the dog, and that's it. But it's important. It's really important that we try in the best way that we can to keep those lines open, keep people in the loop of how you're feeling and what you're going through. Try different things, try learning different things, try and find projects at home that you can do, whether it's some decorating or having a clear out. And that can often be hard when we've lost someone we love. It doesn't always have to be their stuff you're clearing out. You can just have a declutter. Spend some time with you, you know, allow yourself to grieve, meditate, journal, do the self-care work, and use it as an opportunity to allow the grief to come, to learn how to sit with it, to not be so afraid of it, to find healthy ways of releasing the emotions that you're going through. I know it feels like there's nothing you can do when you're locked in at home, but there's so much. And with the internet now, you know, there's podcasts, there's YouTube, there's books that you can order online and read and learn things. And, you know, use the time wisely that allows you to gain something from that time.
That is all true. Again, we go right back into self-care being the most important thing that you can do for yourself. One thing you said really, really struck me as just perfect, which was do things different. Step outside of your boundaries. And even if you're stuck at home, there's so much that you can do that maybe in a relationship before you couldn't do, because there wasn't enough time, there wasn't enough, you know, whatever it was, you weren't able to. So moving yourself out of your boundaries and pushing yourself to do things that are different is so great, because your life is different now. There's nothing same about it as it was before. And it's really hard to let go of that past. But a big part of it is that that past is such a great and beautiful part of your story. No matter how traumatic it was, it is still a beautiful part of your story. But there's so much more in your life, and being able to move into things that are different. So this kind of brings me into that place of where people sometimes feel like if they're doing things like that, that they are moving on, and that makes them feel very, very sad. On the other hand, you have people telling you, or assuming, especially now, you can tell me if this is wrong or not, but if you've lost a husband or a spouse or a partner from a long-term illness, and then you've known for years, like I did. My husband had cancer for a very long time, and we knew it was terminal. So we knew that he was going to pass. So the expectation of me to get over it with other people, get over it, I say, we all know that there is no getting over it. It's moving on, but it should be shorter. And I have had a lot of comments on there. I mean, this recently, I had a comment where a woman and her son just lost her spouse to a terminal illness, and a month later people were like, it's time for you to move on. And it's just like, I feel like if you're breathing every day, then you are moving on. I mean, you're actually still living. But there's guilt behind finding a new you. There's guilt behind finding a new life, and there's guilt behind moving on. So how do we alleviate that?
I think it's really important to understand that rebuilding after loss, finding love and joy and peace in your heart does not in any way diminish your love or your loss for your person. And I think we feel it's an either or situation, that if we take those steps forward and recreate a life for ourselves that we could possibly be happy in, that's disrespectful. That means that we no longer love them, that we no longer grieve them. And it doesn't mean that. It does not mean that in any way, shape, or form. The two live side by side. Your love and your grief is there to stay forever. I'll be 5 years in September. I love Simon incredibly still. I'm with a new partner. I have been for 2 years. I love them both. That was difficult to navigate. But I've really learned that nothing takes that away. Nothing ever takes that away. And the two, they call it the duality of grief, don't they? That the two do live side by side, and one doesn't outweigh the other. And we have to remind ourselves of that and know that it's okay. And actually, how I feel, and this is just my take on it, and I'm not saying I'm right. It's just my view of the world. If I chose not to create a good life for myself and my children and to move on and make the best of it, for me, I should feel more guilty about making that choice to Simon than the choice I've made to go on and create a full, vibrant, loving, happy, fulfilled life, because we only get one shot at this, and life is incredibly tragic and sad, and pain is inevitable. None of us are getting away from that. But it does have a beautiful way of being far more joyful and loving than it does tragic, I believe. And I think we have to embrace that. And yes, we have to acknowledge the pain. Yes, we have to work through it in our own way, but we don't have to stay there. We don't have to unpack and live in that place out of feeling that that's what we owe our person and that's what's the right thing to do. I don't believe that's the right thing to do. I think we should feel more guilty about making that choice, staying in that space, than we should about moving forward. Because if our loved ones were still here, what would they do? What would they advise you? Knowing the situation, I've yet to meet someone that can tell me that their loved one would say, "Yeah, I want you to be miserable actually for the rest of your life, and I want you to live in mourning for me, out of respect." That's not how it works. So, when the time feels right for you to rebuild and reimagine a life beyond your loss, grab it with both hands. Don't feel guilty about it. It doesn't take anything away from you. What you've been through and the person that you've loved has made you the person you are today through their life and through their loss. And for me, myself, I am now grateful to Simon for everything he's given to me in his life and in his loss, because it's taught me so much, and I'm taking those learnings and I'm building on them, and I'm going to make the best out of this so that, hopefully one day I'll see him again on the other side, and we are going to have the most amazing conversation. And that's just the way I like to look at it.
Yes, I like to look at it in the same light. So that so that is really, really good to hear. Also, moving on isn't like we said, everything is different. So it's just a matter of just getting up every day, just doing it. And
Mm,
one thing I said earlier that is also a big part of my coaching is your internal dialogue and what you're saying
mm,
all the time. And if you're saying things like, I'm
mm,
just sad I can't move on today, then that's exactly what you will receive. Now,
mm,
there are days when you need to experience that. You need to experience what it feels like to be ultra sad. But on the days,
mm,
other days, you can say, I feel that way, but I'm going to choose to feel a different way. I'm going to choose to feel neutral today. Maybe it isn't that you're going to feel great, but you're going to choose to feel neutral today. Or you're going
mm,
to choose to allow the numbness without all the other things, the self, harming things of the alcohol and all that to try and numb you. But whatever you're feeling is perfectly normal. But you
mm,
do get to a place where you say, but I'm just choosing to just enjoy the day. I'm enjoying the weather. I'm enjoying my children. I'm enjoying this on Netflix. Whatever it is, you can just enjoy it because you choose to enjoy what it is that you want to enjoy. Those are just normal, everyday coaching things. I think that I'm constantly trying to, but what you're saying, your internal dialogue is going to be your truth. So
mm,
granted, in the beginning, that the sorrow is so real. So there is one thing that I've noticed about my journey also was that I would say probably 9 months ago or so, I felt like, or it may have almost been a year ago, but I didn't realize until later on things that I was doing because I was grieving. Like I thought I just was low motivation, and I was getting up and doing everything every day, and I was running my business and still having really great coaching sessions and all of that. But like we had moved, my family and I moved all the way across the country, and I still hadn't really done much unpacking and didn't really care. Now, I had unpacked probably 80% of my house, but like one particular room had all this stuff in it. Well, my stepdaughter and her son, I mean, her husband came to visit, and they unpacked a lot of that. And at the time, I just didn't really care. And I realized later
mm,
that that whole process was really because I still was really grieving. Like I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it. But I did just kind of honor how I felt and went through it. But I think that later on, you get into a place where you start noticing, like, wow, I thought I was doing so much better than I probably was.
mm.
Um, but is there a good or is there a bad? Like, it's not really that I wasn't doing bad. It's just what I was. And so we
Yeah.
don't really put a good or bad label on it, right? It's kind of just how we're getting through it.
I think so. Do you know what? I think actually we all instinctively know how to grieve ourselves. We know what works for us. We know what feels right in any given moment. But we don't listen. We've stopped listening to ourselves and we take on all these outdated societal beliefs. We listen to peers, to colleagues, and we tell ourselves that we should be doing better than we are. So we kind of put all this pressure on ourselves, and it's a subconscious thing. I don't think it's something we necessarily consciously think of at the time, but I think we have to become more in tune with where we're at in any given moment, how we feel, and what we need in that moment to help us. And to go with that and to listen to our instincts and be in that moment, a bit like you were just saying, just be in a moment. And if that moment is sad and raw and painful, what do you need? Just sit down and say to myself, what do I need right now to help me feel better? Do I need to sleep? Do I need a good meal? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to do some journaling? Do I need to connect with someone I love? Do I need to just cry this out, put on some sad music and go for it? Or if you're feeling good and you wake up one day and it's like, well, what do I need today? And it's like, do I need to go and have some fun? I need to go and let my hair down. I need to escape this. And that's okay too. Listen to your body. Your body will guide you, but you've got to listen to it and you've got to trust in it. And I don't think we have the ability to do that anymore. We keep putting ourselves down, like you say, with the internal dialogue. You know, you have a bad day and you think, oh God, I'm rubbish, I'm not doing this right, I should be better than this by now, and I should have done this and I should have done that, and so and so's friend did it this way, and you know, and we just berate ourselves, and we don't speak kindly to ourselves in our head. And you know, it's sometimes it's just stopping, isn't it, and listening and asking yourself the right question, and knowing that whatever you need in any given moment is absolutely okay. Everything is okay. You're going to go through such a roller coaster of emotions. You're going to, you know, that there were days that were literally just a few months after Simon died, I almost felt excited about my future, because I was like, oh wow, you know, I've got this whole future ahead of me. Without him, I can do what I want. And then you dive down and you crash and burn, and you're like, I can't do this, I can't do anything, I'm useless without him, I miss him too much, it hurts, and you're gonna go up and down, aren't you, in and around all these emotions in from one moment to another. And all of that is normal, and all of that is okay. But don't when you're not. Be kind to yourself. And I think that is one of the best things that we can do, is just to be kind, to stop and listen, and to go with what we feel is right in any given moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being here. And I really hope that everybody is taking on this beautiful information that you've given everybody, and that they really are taking it all to heart, because this is some amazing coaching. And I'm going to put all your contact information below in case anybody wants to reach out. Is that okay with you, in case someone's needing extra support?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some free support on my website, so you know, anyone can sign up to that. And yeah, reach out, get in touch. I'd love to hear from anyone that wants any support. I do one-to-one coaching, and I do group coaching, because I think it's lovely to bring widows together and create a space that way as well. So yeah, absolutely. And anything you want to ask, please do.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So group coaching, individual coaching is available for anybody that's looking for a little bit of extra support. Thank you, Karen. I just want you to know, I really, really appreciate all the advice that you've given us today, all the wonderful coaching, and for taking the time and sharing your story and your advice with us here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Jodie. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Love you guys. Thank you all so much for being here with us, and hope that you are doing okay through your process. Love you. Bye.